Friends, I'm going to dispense with the typical e-begging you see so much of on eBay this day, with the like this and the sub that. Look, I'm already a partner. You know, YouTube knows the good partners and the bad ones. I don't need to do any of that bullshit. Today's video, we're going to get the snowblower ready for the season. I had left off the last snowblower video in the springtime when we laid the snowblower up for summer storage. I keep my snowblower under the back staircase, way in there, past those garden implements. I prep it and I tarp it up because it's outside, and then I put it on wood blocks to keep the metal blade and to keep the rubber tires off the dirt. And now basically what we're going to do is just clean it up and untarp it and put some gas in it, some nice fresh gas, because it's all drained out as I did in the other video, getting it ready for the summer storage. And we're going to start it up, make sure it works. We're going to double check everything, and we're going to stick it in the garage and wait for it to snow. A few points quickly. Had you not properly prepared your snowblower for summer storage, you might want to go by this list over here, the not prepped list, in which case you would, and not necessarily in this order, but these are the things you would want to do. Clean it up. You would want to drain the old gas out of the tank, the fuel lines, and the carburetor. You would want to drain the old oil out of the engine and dispose of that stuff properly. Small engines like this take a straight weight oil, like a 30W or a 40W. Probably in the winter you'd want to go to a 30W. It's a little thinner, you know, with the cold climates and stuff. You do not want to use an automotive like 15W40, like they call it a multi-weight oil. Because small engines, you'll find on small machines and snowblowers and generators and stuff like that, they typically run a lot hotter than an automobile engine. And you could do some really messing up of the thing by running like an automotive oil. So you definitely want to use a straight weight, a 30W or a 40W. In my case, because the big hurricane and the nor'easter blew through, the auto parts stores are like out of 30 weight. So I got 40 weight. It's okay, you know, it's not the end of the world. I would have rather had a 30 weight, but at least I have a straight weight oil. But actually I changed the oil in the springtime with a 30 weight, so my oil is good. But I'm just saying, you know, so the not prep. And then you would want to put fresh gasoline in it. Fresh is the key word, with a little stabilizer in it, a stabilizing product. I'm going to go over that in a second. Fresh oil in the crankcase. You're going to want to grease any grease fittings you may or may not have on your auger. You would want to oil any moving parts like levers and cables where they go through things and attach and stuff like that with like a little oil can with some of that 30 or 40 weight motor oil would be just fine. And not wanting to plug any products, but you could use like a little oil thing you got in a store. Not WD spray, that stuff's too thin. You would want to use like an oil, but like a 3 and then there's a letter 1, something like that, you know. You're gonna, if indeed your snowblower has a battery, you're gonna want to check the battery, and you would possibly check the battery by either starting it and seeing if it cranks over and how it sounds, or use like a multimeter or a voltage tester or something like that. You would want to start it up, and you would want to run and operate the thing to make sure everything works. Then you would want a spray silicone product like the chute and the big auger in the front and all of that area in where the auger is. It just helps the snow move out better. Had you prepped it for the summer storage, the list is a lot easier, and we're just going to go over that quickly. And so this is the prep list. You're going to want to clean the snowblower with like a car wash, you know, and a brush. You're going to want to add gas to the empty tank that you drained out in the spring. You're going to want to put a little stabilizer in that gas, a stabilizing product. Reason being, you may indeed not even use the snowblower this winter, depending on your location. You might not use it until March or possibly April, depending on the weather and your location. So this gas that we're going to put in the tank may indeed sit there for 4 or 5 months. So you're going to want to put a stabilizing product in it. according to the stabilizing products directions. Okay, you're going to want to double check everything, and you're going to want to oil all those linkages and cables and little levers and operation things. You're going to want to start it and checking the battery at the same time, if indeed your snowblower has electric start and a battery. You're going to run and operate it to double check everything, and again you're going to spray the chute in the auger area with a spray silicone product if you had it, just because it makes, when you do use it, it makes the snow blast out a little bit easier. Here are some of the products and oil for our fittings and levers and stuff like that: a fuel stabilizer, a silicone spray for the chute, and some fresh gasoline. Other than that, we're going to take this tarp off by taking this string, the hold down string, and we're actually going to recycle this string by bundling up those branches that got knocked down in the nor'easter for the sanitation guys to come and pick up. So always the one to reuse items in the handyman zone. Here we are, just doing some rough cleaning. I'm going to get in here in a few minutes with some car wash and a brush, and we're going to check the oil, which looks just fine. We got good oil level. Fuel tank's nice and dry, just the way we left it. Now we're going to add, I guess I got about 3/4 of a gallon of fresh fuel in this can. And this stuff, this stabilizer product, they recommend 1 ounce to a gallon. I'm never one for measuring and stuff. I like to do things by eye, so we're going to give it a shot of that. And we're going to stir it up. And we're going to pour it in our snowblower. When you're filling a fuel tank, you want to fill it up because of issues like condensation, where through cooling and heating, even a few degrees difference in the morning and the evening, even if it's inside, the temperature difference between inside the tank and outside, you can get condensation, and over time that can lead to like a few drops of water in the bottom of the gas tank. So whether it be a boat or a snowblower or a lawnmower, given the chance, you always want to have the tank full, which gives less of a chance of condensation. So we are going to fill this fuel tank reasonably close to the top. That worked out just perfect. It's right up about a ½ inch from the top. We're going to oil our fittings and our little levers and everything else, and while we're oiling it, we are going to double check everything. Here's our electric start cord. We're going to oil all our little cables and where they pass through different devices, and now we're going to use our silicone product. Now of course we're going to come in here and wash this with a car wash, but we're going to be careful when we wash it not to scrub off our silicone product or our oil and stuff. But if we wanted to do this stuff after we washed it, of course we'd have to wait for it to dry. So I find it better to do before, and just be careful when you're washing it not to scrub everything off. Of course, when it comes time to use this, it's going to be snow and ice and stuff, you know, so it's going to be soaking wet anyway. So The oil, you know, washing it off is not an issue. Once this stuff dries, it's pretty much on there for a little while anyway. And the same with the oil. Once it's in where you need it, as long as you don't like scrub and blast with the hose, you're not going to run into problems. So we're going to silicone our chute and inside there, and then we just silicone all of this area with a spray coating, and just about everywhere you can reach. And just to show you guys the oil, sometimes if your oil is really clean, it's hard to see the level on the dipstick. So I'll take the dipstick out and quickly lay it on a paper towel. And then as I move it, you can see the imprint that the oil leaves on the paper towel, and that'll give you a better idea of your oil level. If indeed your oil is like new and it's hard to see. So again, put it on the paper towel. I'll wait for the autofocus. And then I just scoot it over, and I can see the stain it left on the paper towel is right up to the fill, or at least in the okay range. And that we plug in here. And then into a wall socket. Pull start is here, and what I like about this machine is they give you an oversized handle in case you got gloves on or something. We fueled her up. We checked the oil. This machine doesn't have a fuel shutoff per se, but it does have a priming bulb that we're going to give a bunch of pumps because we had drained out the fuel lines and the carburetor bowl in the springtime, so there's absolutely no fuel in here. Now I see the fuel dripping out. Let me show you which. After priming about 10-15 times, I could see the fuel coming out of the overflow here, so I know the carburetor is full of fuel and it's basically ready to start her up. So the key is in there. I have it safetied in so I don't lose it. We're going to put the choke on. We're going to kick our throttle up a little bit, and that's the muffler, so that's probably going to be a good shot there as we kick her over. We want to keep the RPMs down a little bit in the beginning because it's been sitting all summer and all the oil has come off all the moving parts inside the engine. And a simple engine like this has what they call a splash oiler, where it just kind of, there's a thing on the bottom of the crankshaft that just kind of splashes oil all over the freaking place, as opposed to an oil pump. So we'll keep the RPMs down for about this long. She starts warming up. We could take the choke off, and then we could give her a little throttle safely. And this one's pretty good. She started right up for us, and she's just running really smooth, which tells me I did a good job prepping it in the springtime. Absolutely no problem. Now we're going to bring her up into the operating range, the RPMs in the operating range. She's running nice and powerful, nice and smooth. Back down to idle. She's running really good. We did a good job prepping her. Alright, what we did right there was test the auger, which you guys saw was probably a really cool shot, and we also tested the forward and reverse functions. So now that we've run her through and we know that she's working just fine, I'm going to take a few minutes with some car wash. I'm going to soap her up and hose her down, and then I'm going to, one thing I want to show you guys. And in the springtime, I think I was actually out of grease for my grease gun. There's a grease fitting right here on the auger shaft, and there's a grease fitting right here on the auger shaft. I'm going to give a squirt of grease with the grease gun. I was actually out in the springtime, but I recently got a nice new full tube of grease and loaded it in the grease gun. So there she is up there. I'm just going to put my rubber gloves on because that thing's really greasy. Of course, it's a grease gun. But we're going to give her a shot of grease. And we're gonna wash her down, and that's it. And she's ready for anything that Mother Nature throws at me this winter. Now, my YouTube audience, when it comes to greasing things, that's called a zerk fitting. What you want to do is wipe it down first, because there's always dirt that sticks to the surface, and we don't want to squirt that dirt in with the new grease. So you always wipe it down, and then you stick your grease fitting on there until it kind of clicks. And then you pump your grease gun until you'll see like grease coming out one end to the other. And I see it coming out right there, so I'll give it one more squirt. And that fitting is done. We're going to move to the other side. And again, we wipe down the zerk fitting. And we stick our grease gun on there until it kind of clicks in place. And we pump it, and you can see, watch this, you can see it. See that coming out there? Okay. That's good. I keep this well maintained, so it's always pretty much full of grease. And then we want to wipe the extra grease off the fittings so that not too much dirt would stick on there for the next time. Okay. Alright, good. And I think that's the only two grease fittings on this machine. Just going over in my memory, and yes, that's the two grease fittings on the machine. And afterthought, one thing I forgot, it's pretty important, and this one has inflatable tires, is check the tire pressure. And while we're down here checking the tire pressure, we're going to inspect the tire chains, which is probably one of the best things I did to this snowblower, was add the tire chains. It really helps in the snow with the gription. Now, I found on the tube where it's printed the tire pressure, and this one actually reads that they have a maximum recommended of 20 psi. My tire pump here actually has a gauge on it, so I'm going to use that to check it. At the same time, I'll be able to fill it if needed. Air. Okay, there we go. 20, 19, 20. Okay, so that one definitely needed air. It's a good thing we checked it. My YouTube audience along with me. And it's always important to put these little caps back on. Okay, this one has, again, about 10. So they both lost a little in the last year. Okay, if you could see the gauge, right there, we're up at 20. Okay, the autofocus is probably going all wacky. And at the same time, inspect our tire chains. Everything looks good. Oh, we're doing just great, YouTube. We're going to give this thing a little wash down, and she's ready for winter.